movements, contemplations that exist inside oneself. In a large sense, the most meaningful parts. And what meditation is famous for is cultivating an experience from that level, a resonance from that depth of experience. And the reason for that is multifaceted, but one of the main reasons is that this is naturally where a human being goes, ultimately. At the end of days, we always move into a deeper meaning as to why. That we don't necessarily fully feel satisfied with anything that is topical, even if that is our driving force. It always runs a course, and then we are looking for something more. So we want to pierce down deeper into the most meaningful aspects, so that then from that very meaningful place we actually find endurance. And through endurance we cultivate momentum. And then that momentum begins to touch upon all aspects of the experience that you call your life. So it's actually a shortcut to getting what you truly feel is important. And what it cultivates a relationship with is an aspect of the human experience that we call the soul. And the soul experience is one that has been around for a really long time in terms of conversation. And it seems as though we are touching upon it as a human species again and again with bursts of enthusiasm, and then the enthusiasm fades away and we reconnect back into that more topical rhythm. And then again there's a burst of enthusiasm. The sustained development of a relationship with the soul experience is one that is quenching a thirst of self-identification and self-worth. And a secret to that self-worth is accepting your knowledge and understanding of the soul experience for what it is at this given moment in time. And that what you see it as being is actually true. So erasing the part that says, well, you don't quite know yet, and actually enhancing your level of development as being an achievement. So now within that understanding and cultivation of respect for yourself, it begins to influence all areas of life on a multitude of depths, and actually services the ability for increased depth, because now that subtle holding pattern, which might be fear, which might be frustration of not knowing, is loosened because you're working on your present moment of development, this right here and now, and learning how to accept yourself for who you are. Now that connection, soul experience, and another way of saying it is self, that relationship with oneself And the softness that begins to occur has complete influence over the types of thoughts that we have, the emotions that we feel, and the frequency of our thinking. The types of thoughts that we have want to be congruent to how we feel beyond that emotional attachment. So the deeper feeling, so that we're connecting to a deeper meaning. And if a thought can reflect that deeper relationship, then all of a sudden the two start to work together in order to influence positively the attached emotion and the frenetic thought. So it's positively influencing it, which then begins to give confidence to that thinking pattern that we're actually going to do something with the information that's being offered to us by it. So the intelligence that's held within that emotion that is speaking, within that thought that is moving, is being heard, and now we're able to do something with the intelligence, which is based upon the deeper movement that we see as who we are, which is creating a higher vibration of thought, increased positivity. Which means that the frequency of the thought, so the amount of thoughts that we have, begins to slow down. Because now that mechanism which is creating the image that is reflecting how we feel on a deeper level is now able to take confidence that we're listening to the intelligence and doing something with it. So I can come to a restful place, which then opens up the space of the mind to connect to the experience of meditation. So that softness that we find within the soul connection as it is right now, that's what is held as being important, which then influences positively everything else that we do. So from a technical perspective, we use a technique called Sattva Ananda so that we embody that experience which is found within the meditative state, but also that we use the body in order to unravel whatever subtle knots or holding patterns that might be there. So it works in twofold. So we want to create a body, a breath, and a mind that is suitable for a meditation to exist. And how we do that is getting to know ourselves from that place. And I always outline it in a very simple way, starting with just simply feeling comfort within the body. And then from comfort, feeling the rhythm of the heart and how it pulses through your body. Now that's in relation to that softness of the soul experience. So now we are connecting the rhythms of the body, the physiology of our body, how it moves and works, to the softness of that soul experience. And the more frequently we go to that place and connect and then move back into comfort, rhythm of heart, fluid, the stronger the connection becomes. And then the more fluid the avenue of communication, which means the more likely we are to be able to remember that fact. That, oh yeah, this is who I am. Oh yeah, this is why I'm here. In relation to all of that which is occurring around me, which creates a consistent positive perspective on what is occurring. One of the more subtle aspects of the meditation on the body is fluid. And when we say follow and connect to the fluid of the body, it's actually quite literal. We are a large part water within the body, cellular fluid, so many fluids, cerebral fluid, so on. And the fluid of the body is actually working with the rhythm of the heart and its pulse. It's also working with very subtle vibrations of cellular movement, even that much more subtle on the particle movement. So what begins to occur is we are allowing ourselves to become increasingly more tuned to our biorhythms and who we are. And at the exact same time, we are cultivating a meditation practice by using that which we already have. So that which we already have as a physical body in order to create the body of meditation. Now what must occur in order for that to happen is a quieting down, which means a separation from thought, from emotion, from all activity that the mind is producing. And that's related to all of our senses, all five of them. And that sensory input and output is directed to a very specific task that's being asked by the technique. So it becomes a focal point and a developmental step within stages leading towards a very strong and mature meditation practice. So now the benefit of that is that we do not need to be concerned about the whole big meditation any longer, just simply that one step within that one stage. And the ideal is that we have so much confidence in this relationship that we're building at the depth of that self or soul experience that we can truthfully say, yes, now I'm ready. After 1 week or 1 month or 1 year, if it takes that long for me to say, I get it. Because then moving deeper into the meditation, it's no longer within any shadow of any doubt that the connection is there, which just in its nature increases the vitality, increases the health and well-being of the physical body because you're so in tune with it. Any movement away from balance, you actually begin to feel it right away, and then can bring the balancing agent, whatever that agent may be. Just like with that higher vibration of thought, then influencing the holding pattern of emotion and connective thinking. So it's through the stages of your meditation practice that reveal themselves naturally. So meaning not even learning this technique, but just by you sitting and closing your eyes and deciding that you're going to just become as quiet as you can for this particular sit and listen to that which is happening right now. will actually lead you into all these stages that I'm speaking about. Starting with the comfort of your body, because that's what happens first. We just want to sit comfortably. And then if you're feeling, all of those stages start to come up. Rhythm of the heart, fluid, warmth naturally emerging from the body and the space that happens through that relationship. So the second stage is often the most valuable and the most elusive because it revolves around your breathing. And the breathing moves in and out of the body through the lungs, but the breathing also fills the body. And it fills the body with oxygen and all kinds of different chemical relationships, but it also fills the body with a very specific sensation that within the wisdom traditions they call prana, energy, but really it is a relationship with your nervous system and how it connects to the tissue of the body and how it connects to the mind. But that nervous system expands all the way through into the brain, neurotransmitters, and makes an incredible amount of network ability happen. So now what the byproduct of that is a built-in subtlety with an intelligence network that expands through all aspects of your body physically, all aspects through your body mentally. And it demands attention, meaning the moment you inhale consciously and exhale consciously, it creates a break in whatever it is that you are focused on. But at the exact same time, it's so malleable because it's much more subtle than the physical body. So it can act as a director. It acts as a fuel to whatever it is that you're focused on. The mechanics of your body or the concentration of your mind. So now when we connect that back into the reason why you're here, deciding to take on a meditation practice, sitting in this room, but also in this body and having this life, it becomes so effective and valuable to piercing or cutting or dissolving that which is the holding pattern and making fluid and stronger all that is the real reasoning behind why you do what you do. So it gives victorious attributes to you as being the hero of your own story, and gives you the strength and buoyancy that you need to move through the fear. I mean, it's the age-old story. It's right in there, in the old part of the brain, right there. Survival. So this is the animal kingdom that you live in. And a large part of it has to do with your mental well-being and the steadiness of your emotional state. That's what governs a lot of the achievement of the human species at this moment in time. So it's less how fast you can run and more how relaxed, and through that relaxation, how calculated you can become. With your attention, with your concentration, and with your direction. The basics of the achievement that I'm speaking about is just simple balance, happiness, freedom that one feels for themselves. And then where it goes in the outside world, well, That's up to an individual, I guess. But the rudimentary effects that is necessary for the well-being of the human species is those three things: balance, happiness, freedom. Generally in that order. And then from that platform, then we can start to explore the deeper meaning of life and those questions. Who am I? Where do I come from? And why am I here? Which is quintessential human thought patterning. We go there in loops, whether we avoid it or not. So the first stage is to get very stable: balance, happiness, freedom. Free body, free mind, free whatever you want. Freedom 55, 45, 35, 65, 85, 95. Whatever it is that you feel is important. And then from there, those three big questions can be asked. Not even asked because they're already being asked, but those three questions with freedom can be explored. And then take confidence in the answer that you're getting. And that's now looping back to this soul experience again. So being confident that this is your soul, this is who you are, this is the deepest part of who you are at this moment in time, which then leads, through the freedom that that gives, into simply accepting that this is who I am, this is why I'm here, this is where I come from. And then from that, we connect to a direction of where we're going next, which is probably the most exciting part. And that's this visualization that emerges again completely naturally as to what the future looks like. What the future looks like. The clearest direction possible comes from inside of you, which then meets the direction of the rest of the reality that you see, the world around you. But the less weight and holding that there is for that dream and that vision that you see, the more possible it becomes. There's no catching point that pulls you off course from that direction. And this, in effect, is what you do within your meditation every time you sit. So from the beginning of the time you sit, whether it be 2 minutes or 2 hours, until the end of that sit, you move through all 4 stages: body, breath, mind, and dynamic stillness. It just naturally happens. You work on aspects of mind, to deeper mind, to the vision that you see, but constantly holding it with positive perspective. No matter what it is, if it's the height of elation, you're, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm seeing this, this is very exciting, to why am I looking at that? Everything in between, you maintain the positive perspective that you are actually expanding your ability to connect, to relate, and to respond to your environment. Inner. The inner environment is showing you its health, its well-being, its vibrancy. And you are so conscious just by default, by being human, that you're able to see it. What you see then is what you're working on. So the meditation is a technology that as you see it, that is the in point, but you also have the out point. It says what it needs to say and begins to lighten and dissolve every time you see it. So you have repeating themes that might happen within your meditation for a while, but it gets lighter and lighter every time. But that is increased in its ability to dissolve by your actions and responses to your environment when your eyes are open and moving around. Those simple choices that we make. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, inside. Should I do this? Should I do that? Which then orchestrates the live feed of your meditation. So that then you've successfully worked on whatever it is that you've needed to work on, and then you close your eyes to see, well, how is that inner environment? And it's just natural. It naturally occurs. No matter what, if you sit and close your eyes, no matter how chaotic the mind, it is simplifying. That's the beauty of it. It is simplifying. But it happens through chemical releases, chemical reactions first. So oftentimes your mind does not see the benefit first. But if you were to measure your biorhythms, all of the proof is there. Heart rate decreased. Temperature regulated. So it's that conscious part of us that must just be on board every time, every step of the way. And that we're becoming clearer in when we step away from that conscious decision into a pattern which we know that is expired, which we know that is no longer needed. And that's a part of the reality also. So that's the truth serum that cannot be denied. The proof is in the life. And that it is a choice. So we choose to go this way. And we are working on creating strong neural pathways to make that other good choice. But because your orientation is in a very specific way, that's towards this positive light. It's just naturally that, I can guarantee you. It inevitably goes that way. But there's a funny emotional addiction. This thought yearning that we get as human beings. We know, don't quite go, but feels so good to go like that. And then we loop the other way, we're doing good, but it feels so good to go that way. So to recognize that is actually to hone in on the discipline conversation that the wisdom tradition has been expressing for thousands of years. So discipline has been one of the cornerstones of a meditation practice or any of those mystic or wisdom traditions, for that simple sake. That the regulation of the mind needs exactly that, some governance, but not governance from an outside individual, governance from that inside consciousness, the conscious one inside. That's saying yes, no. And it's been written about for so very long, with so many examples as to what that feels like. So behind me is Nataraj, which is doing the Ananda Tandava, which is the dance of bliss, which is literally the dance of life. And in one of Shiva's hands, he's holding a fire. And that fire represents tapas. And that tapas is everything that we were just talking about, where we want to go this way out of pattern and habit and just feel so good, it's an addiction, and we say no. That sensation is represented by a little bit of burning tapas. It's this, I really want to do that, but not. So that's expressed within your meditation practice. Each time the mind attempts to pull you into the storyline, which is going through the peaks and valleys and around into the rivers, and you say no, and you just maintain healthy perspective and keep focus just there right in front of you, where you know the clear direction is. That point right there. It's that true north compass, the only one that we have that is going that way. Inevitable. And if you just say, show me the way in all earnestness, I guarantee you it will happen. No matter how murky the water or that space may look, it will clear the more you visit it. Just like how a muscle will strengthen the more you use it. So we're creating the pathways within the brain, which is leading us to increasingly more subtle sensation sources, energetic vibrations within the body, but are sustained within the body but also outside of the body. And then the two are acting as mirrors. So within your meditation practice, so not subject to any other person, so that you're solidifying your energetic field. That's where the mind exists. All around us is this mental field. So you're creating your own truth, which then over time connects to the overarching truth and every other truth. And that's how the truth is the truth, beyond any opinion. Because spent over time, all falls away. All untruths just simply cannot survive. But if you take your lifetime, it exists on the intensity of your relationship to that. So mild intensity is going to yield that mild result. Strong intensity is going to yield a strong result. So this light dancing, yes, no, into the distraction, out, into the direction, versus just strong direction with full enjoyment. So now if you increase that into the level of this whole world or even this city or this country, on the collective truth, imagine how much of this yes, no movement is happening. It's impossible to base truth on what's happening outside there, and it's impossible to wait for everybody to get to a place of truth. So to just shortcut it, focus on yourself, your own personal truth, and let the rest just simply form around you and catch up. Because it's foundational. So this sensation of inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale is a rhythm, just like life and its truths are a rhythm. And every time we inhale, exhale, we go into the sensation of experience. Life is exactly like that. Inhale, exhale, to these sensations of experience. But what's left behind the inhale, exhale is actually the foundation. So what's left behind often no longer has a word to describe its meaning, its feeling. That base is what we want to connect to. The strong thread that goes through inhale, through exhale, is left behind after inhale, exhale is finished. Which is the same thing as saying going through the sensations of life and back to truth again, through sensations of life and back to truth again, but is always there after it's been all said and done. So you do not lose your direction and orientation because of the sensational movements of life. Meditation can be the secret weapon. For your mission in this amazing environment we have. It's no longer just keeping a bit of coal to make the next fire, it's something else, but the exact same relationship. Any questions or comments? Hi.
Can you speak to the relationship or whatever between meditation, sex, celibacy, and relationships?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can. Meditation, sex, celibacy, and relationships.
Okay.
So when you say meditation, do you mean what level of meditation? Do you mean like the level of a monk kind of a meditation, or the level of someone who's living in the world?
Yeah.
The world?
Yeah, like us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In the relationship of us, sex is a hub of our communication. Sex in the form of sexuality, so we have men and women and how we express ourselves, but sex also in the form of communication. And communication, I mean how we relate to a significant other and how you and that significant other begin to intertwine each other's lives in order to achieve a state or a goal. Yeah?
Okay.
Now, within that, meditation becomes a womb of protection within a relationship. Because what begins to happen is that the depth of the physical relationship in relation to sexuality begins to increase in its tangible meanings and understandings of a union that is formed out of a deep yearning to experience oneself in an ecstatic state. Now within that is a spiritual function. So it goes back to who am I, where do I come from, why am I here? Now, if done on a balanced level, the sexual experience then influences the meditation on a very high level of proficiency, but not in its act, but in its relationship. So meaning the work that the male and the female, or the male and the male, or the female and the female do together is directly now influencing the states that can be achieved within a meditation practice. Because it's the union. It's this whole incomplete, it's this mirror, it's this tangible influence that makes the individual better at relating to themselves, and that relationship to oneself is then directly influencing the meditation practice. Does this make sense?
Mhm.
Now, in relation to celibacy, the celibacy can happen when an individual is reaching a state of being able to access both masculine and feminine within themselves. And then that very precious union and not entanglement, but intertwining can occur within one individual. And everybody has that possibility, but it's whether or not you truly want that. So oftentimes people don't want that, but we feel pressure because of this old writing that comes from Buddhist lineages or Hindu lineages or yogic lineages that talk about celibacy as a way of retaining the vital fluids to increase the energy of the body so that then the mind can become stable and work through all of the patterning. But that exact same thing can occur within union, and sometimes more effective, especially in this day and age. Were those all the points?
Yeah.
Was there another point there?
Yeah. What about monogamy and pluralism
Yeah, pluralism versus monogamy.
relating to meditation?
Yeah, well, again, this is really speaking to the individual's process. So whether or not that's a good idea. Monogamy versus pluralism.
The ability to reach those higher states.
Yeah. It
and-
depends on the individual. So if an individual begins to lose balance because of the pluralism, meaning giving oneself into too many individuals, or there is friction being created, then that will start to disturb the mind. Whereas if there's no disturbances, then again it's up to the individual. But oftentimes there is a streamlining that occurs when you are just with one person. But within that streamlining has its own challenges of the activity of the mind that can occur. So it's up to the individual.
Mhm.
Both are good and both have their challenges. It's just where you are, because if you are in monogamy but your heart is saying pluralism, then this is a challenge. But if you're in pluralism but your heart says monogamy, then this is a challenge. And all the relationships have their own intricacies. And that's the beauty of working with a partner, because you become as conscious as you can as the mirror. But on the mirror on so many levels. So the simple orgasm, for instance. Reading your partner to such a level that you know when exactly is the right time to do what. That is a sophisticated form of communication. And it takes full body awareness, it takes breath control, it takes mind concentration, it takes breathing exercises that starts to naturally happen in patterning with the other. But that is just a simple thing that happens, but actually it is a very sacred state that can be used just like anything else to achieve a heightened level of consciousness.
And ideally between two people who both meditate
Yeah,
and have those goals.
ideally. But then who can put pressure on another? But it will happen if it's supposed to happen. And if not, then just be celibate.
Be what?
Pardon?
Be what?
Celibate.
Yeah. Exactly.
I like that question. Any other quick questions?
Namaste, Bhagavan.
Hello, sir. Namaste.
Can you speak to meditation and mantra, the wisdom tradition of mantra and sound, and how it may be a tool to help us concentrate better and sort of break some of the thoughts and noises that our mind brings up?
So for me, the mantra that I use is the sound of the space. So that for me is the deepest form of mantra. And it surpasses any other word that I could personally utter with my mind or with my voice. That being said, all mantras are very good. And what the mantra does is exactly what you're saying. It breaks up the thought pattern of the mind, which is going in a very specific direction. And it brings it back to that focal point, the direction of the mind.
So the next question is, does one become attached to the mantra and forget about the meditation?
Well, no, because the mantra is then becoming the meditation. But then what eventually needs to happen is an increase of subtlety for that mantra, so that then over time we don't need that form of the mantra, that it's increasing in subtlety to the point of nothing being there and just the sound of the space. And that's the most subtle, but also sometimes challenging, but that's the best, my perspective.
Okay. And then in the clarity of, say you go and you really focus and you do the breathing and you eat really great sattvic food, you take really good company, you read the wisdom tradition books that are filled with lots of positive things, you do a lot of practices, and you practice this mantra over and over again. Would you say that in time, one will inevitably, as you always say, the river flows to the ocean, one will inevitably see the clarity within themselves, and the murkiness you spoke of earlier disappears? Is this what would happen?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
And then it just becomes increasingly more subtle.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And in a large part, we have a mantra of the body, a mantra of the breath, a mantra of the mind, and a mantra of dynamic stillness. So me connecting to my body, I'm listening so closely to that very specific mantra. And then I'm learning from that teacher of that mantra. Likewise with my breathing, likewise with my mind, likewise with the most subtle, that the direction, the dynamic stillness that exists. So if I tune myself, if I listen so closely, then it takes me right there.
And I don't mean to be confusing, but for myself, I hear this constant humming ring sort of thing.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine brought me an Om board the other day. It's something Yogananda come up with, where you're able to block two bandhas, lightly your eye and your ears, and all I can hear is the fluids of my body moving around when you do that. That's also a good focus point, I suppose.
Oh yeah,
too.
Brahmari. Yeah, that's very good.
Okay. So these are all good tools for us to use.
These are all great tools.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that hum, whatever you hear inside, you regard it the same as you regard the depth of the soul or the self-experience. What you hear is what you get is the deepest that you have.
Okay.
And then you just allow it to deepen.
Sweet.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Shall we sit? Bring full deep breaths into the body. Keeping the eyes closed, bring your gaze into the space just there in front of you. With a very specific intensity, which maintains the quality of space uninterrupted by any other thought, but also is not producing tension. It's cultivating the perfection of concentration. Softening the gaze very slowly, gently, allow the eyes to open. So that was good. So I think that the whole meditation can be consolidated into the importance of relationship. Relationship with oneself on a multitude of levels, relationship with another on a multitude of levels, relationship with one's environment on a multitude of levels. And within that relationship, what we're cultivating is attraction, no matter what. Whether the relationship is positive and healthy or whether the relationship is other, it's developing attraction. So we are attracting. So we have to become very clear with what it is that we're attracting and whether or not it's needed any longer. But start from the base, ideally, before making any big decisions outside. Start from the most inner sanctum, the deepest you can possibly get, and then move from there so that then it's based in security and understanding of oneself rather than popular opinion one way or another. Works every time, for thousands of years. Thank you very much, everyone. Namaste.